My name is Isabel. The day my daughter graduated from high school should have been one of the proudest days of my life. Rows of folding chairs stretched across the football field. The stage was draped in blue and white banners, and the sound of hundreds of families cheering filled the air. I clutched my camera, waiting for the moment her name would be called. But instead of focusing on her, my husband decided it was his stage. When the ceremony ended, families poured onto the grass. Students waved their diplomas, parents hugged, cameras flashed. I saw my daughter running toward me, cap slightly tilted, eyes shining. I stepped forward to embrace her, but my husband grabbed the microphone from the announcer's table. I froze as his voice boomed through the speakers. Everyone, I have something to share. Today is not just my daughter's graduation. Today I am free. I am leaving Isabel. We are done. The crowd gasped. My daughter stopped mid-run. Her smile collapsed. Dozens of heads turned toward me. My heart slammed against my ribs as he grinned like a man proud of his performance. After 20 years, he continued, I deserve happiness, and I've found it with someone who truly loves me. Isabel can handle herself. He scanned the crowd until his eyes landed on a woman near the bleachers. She waved. He smiled. My stomach turned to stone. The whispers started instantly. Parents pulled their children closer. Some shook their heads. Some whispered my name. I felt my daughter's hand slip into mine, trembling. Mom, she whispered, why here? Why now? I wanted to scream, to cry, to collapse. But instead, I tightened my grip on her hand and lifted my chin. If he wanted a stage, he would get one. Because what he didn't know was that I had been preparing for this moment. Weeks earlier I had discovered the trail, text messages, hidden bank statements, hotel receipts. I had built a case with my lawyer, line by line, and carried the final blow in my bag that very day. I hadn't planned to use it at graduation, but he had chosen the battlefield. As he stepped off the stage, chest puffed, waiting for applause that never came, I reached into my purse. My fingers brushed against the thick envelope. Divorce papers, asset freeze orders, copies of every secret he thought he'd buried. My daughter's voice broke through the noise. Mom, don't let him win. I walked forward, my heels steady on the grass. The crowd parted as if sensing the shift. My husband turned to face me, smirk still plastered across his face. He opened his mouth to add one more insult. I handed him the envelope. Your freedom comes with a price, I said, loud enough for the microphones to catch. He tore the flap open. His eyes scanned the first page. Then the second. His smirk vanished. His face twisted. And then, in front of the entire graduating class, he started screaming. The crowd erupted, half in shock, half in whispers, as my husband shouted my name, demanding how I had gotten the documents. But I stood tall, envelope empty in my hand, knowing the war had only just begun. The sound of his screaming echoed across the football field. Teachers tried to cut the microphone, parents pulled their kids away, but the damage was already done. My daughter's graduation day would forever carry the stain of his announcement. I stood still, papers no longer in my hands, watching the man I had once loved unravel in front of everyone. But his meltdown on stage was not the beginning of the betrayal. It was only the explosion. The fuse had been lit months earlier. Started with something small. A late meeting that ended past midnight. A text message half hidden when I walked into the room. A credit card charge for a luxury restaurant we had never visited together. At first, I wanted to believe the excuses. Work is tough. Clients demand late dinners. Stop worrying, Isabel. But lies have a rhythm. They repeat, they slip, they get sloppy. And my husband was arrogant enough to think I would never notice. One night, after he claimed he was at the office, his phone buzzed on the counter while he showered. The preview of the message froze me. I can't wait for us to be real after graduation. She won't know what hit her. My breath caught. Graduation. The word burned into me. He was planning something tied to our daughter's milestone. I scrolled further, hands shaking. Dozens of texts, photos, whispered promises of a new life. He wasn't hiding a fling. He was building an escape. That was the night something in me shifted. I stopped being the trusting wife. I became the archivist, the collector, the planner. I bought a small external drive. Every night while he slept or showered, I downloaded his phone backups, copied emails, photographed receipts. I learned his rhythm so well I could predict when he would forget to lock his phone, when his laptop would autosave, when he would leave his briefcase open. I wasn't alone in this. Danielle, my best friend since college, saw my face pale at brunch one morning and demanded answers. I showed her the messages. She didn't gasp. She didn't cry. She looked me in the eye and said, "Then we make him regret underestimating you." She introduced me to Carmen, a divorce lawyer with the sharpest reputation in town. Carmen didn't speak in feelings. She spoke in strategy. We build a case. Property division. Asset freezes. Custody protection. And Isabel, if he wants drama, we control the stage. Over the next weeks, my dining table became a command center. Carmen taught me what documents mattered. Bank statements, investment portfolios, property deeds. Danielle helped me cross-check dates, lining his business trips with hotel invoices. Each piece added weight to the binder we built. The more we uncovered, the uglier the picture became. He wasn't just planning to leave. He was siphoning money from joint accounts into a hidden fund. Transfers labeled as tuition payments or medical expenses that led to accounts under her name. His mistress, his new true love, wasn't just a partner in bed. She was a partner in theft. The final blow came 2 weeks before graduation. Jack Turner, a private investigator Carmen trusted, placed surveillance on him. Within days we had photos. My husband leaving the office early, meeting her at a hotel, kissing her in the lobby like a man with no fear of being caught. And worse, him telling her, "I'll make the announcement at graduation. It will be unforgettable." Unforgettable. The word looped in my mind like poison. He planned to use our daughter's day, her moment of pride, as his stage for betrayal. That was when I swore I would not let him walk away smiling. I had the documents ready long before graduation day. Carmen filed the initial drafts for divorce, prepared motions to freeze assets, drafted emergency custody petitions. All that remained was timing. I carried those papers in my purse for weeks, waiting for the right moment. I didn't expect him to hand me the stage so perfectly. But when he grabbed that microphone, when he tried to humiliate me in front of family, friends, and most importantly, our daughter, I knew fate had lined up every domino. So while he screamed at me in front of hundreds, I stood steady, knowing the crowd didn't just see his betrayal. They saw his collapse. And they saw me hand him the evidence of everything he thought was hidden. That night, as the noise of graduation faded, I returned home. On my doorstep sat a plain envelope. Inside was a single photo. My daughter and me walking off the field. His new mistress's hand circled in red ink. Below it, 4 words, "Next time she's mine." The photo with the red circle shook me more than his screaming ever could. His mistress had circled her own hand, a taunt carved in ink followed by the words, "Next time she's mine." It wasn't just betrayal now. It was threat. I locked the door and called Danielle. She arrived in minutes, breathless, eyes burning. When she saw the photo, she swore, "She's not just playing house with him. She wants to intimidate you. Isabel, this is war." Carmen studied the photo, her jaw tight. "This is evidence. We'll submit it under harassment and intimidation. But we need more. If she's bold enough to send this, she's sloppy somewhere else. Let's find it." That night became the first of many war room nights. We spread documents across the dining table until the wood vanished beneath paper. Bank statements, hotel invoices, text screenshots, surveillance photos, all pinned together by red markers. Jack Turner, the investigator, had been busy. He showed us printouts of license plate scans. "Your husband has been using rental cars to meet her. 3 different rentals in the last 2 months, all booked under his company card. That's fraud. He wrote them off as business expenses." Danielle shook her head. "He's reckless. He thinks his own lies are untouchable." Jack wasn't finished. He slid over a packet. "And this property records. He and the mistress signed a short-term lease on a downtown apartment. Paid 6 months in advance. Guess whose name is on the bank transfer?" I felt my blood boil as I read it. My daughter's college savings account. He had raided it to pay for a love nest. Carmen circled the line in red ink. "We'll get that frozen. Judges hate when men drain college funds for affairs." It's an instant black mark against him. But Jack had saved the worst for last. He dropped a stack of printed emails on the table. This is from her. She's been emailing vendors, florists, caterers, even a jeweler, using your husband's name to set up credit lines. She's signing contracts under an alias, pretending to be his assistant. If those bills go unpaid, they'll come after you too. I clenched the papers so tightly they crumpled. She's not just living off him. She's using my name, my credit, my life as her camouflage. Carmen leaned forward. This makes her complicit in fraud. Every unpaid bill, every forged contract, every alias. It all becomes weight against them. Isabel, the case is no longer about divorce. It's about dismantling their scheme piece by piece. Danielle poured coffee, her voice steady but cold. So we bury them in their own lies. The next days blurred into controlled fury. I combed through every shared account we still had access to. Hidden PayPal transfers. Wire payments to boutique shops. Even a gym membership she used daily. Billed directly to our joint card. Lena, the strategist Danielle pulled in, built a digital archive. Every screenshot went into a master folder. Backed up in 3 places. She color-coded the lies. Red for financial, blue for personal, green for legal. The folder glowed like a traffic light of destruction. But evidence isn't just paper. We needed witnesses. Danielle tracked down the jeweler who had refused one of her alias payments. He was furious, unpaid, and more than willing to sign a statement. Then the caterer, who described her showing up with my husband, demanding tastings for a company event. He laughed bitterly when Danielle explained the truth. I knew something was off. I'll testify. With every witness statement, the binder grew heavier. Carmen looked at me across the table one night and said, "You realize what this means? When we reveal this, he won't just lose his marriage. He'll lose his career. And she'll lose her mask." I nodded. My hands shook, not from fear but from clarity. Good. Let them both know what ruin feels like. But collecting evidence has its price. One evening after Danielle left, I noticed my car lights flicker outside. I pulled the curtain just enough to see a figure sitting in a dark sedan across the street. Engine running. Headlights off. Watching. I snapped a photo through the glass and sent it to Jack. His reply came fast. Not random. Stay inside. I'll run the plates. An hour later, his call confirmed it. The rental matched the same company my husband had been using for his secret trips. The watchers weren't strangers. They were his. I held the photo of the car in one hand, the binder in the other, and whispered to myself, if he wants to play surveillance, then let him watch me load the bullets he gave me. The photo of the dark sedan burned in my mind, proof that he was watching me as much as I was watching him. It was no longer paranoia, it was strategy against strategy. If he wanted to circle me like prey, then I needed hunters of my own. That night we sat around my dining table. Danielle, my sister in all but blood, Carmen the lawyer, Jack the investigator, and Lena the strategist. Coffee cups lined the table, papers covered every inch, the binder thick as stone. My small home had transformed into a war room. Carmen took the lead. Her voice cut through the tension. We have enough for a divorce. Enough for asset freezes. Enough to expose fraud. But if we want this to land with weight, we need order. Sequence. Timing. Jack slid a folder across the table. I traced the rental car. He's been sloppy, same account, same company, multiple trips. He doesn't realize it leaves a trail. I can pin him at hotels, apartments, even private dinners. Each receipt is another nail. Lena tapped her laptop, the screen glowing. I've built the archive. Color-coded, encrypted, backed up in 3 places. When it's time, we release in bursts. Not a flood. A drip feed. One document at a time. Each hit lands before they can recover from the last. Danielle leaned forward. And what about witnesses? The jeweler, the caterer, they're angry, unpaid. They'll testify. Carmen nodded. Good. Angry vendors are gold. They're unbiased, they just want their money. Judges love that. I sat back listening, my heart pounding. For weeks I had been alone, pulling scraps of truth together in the dark. Now, in this small room I had a team. People who knew how to turn scraps into weapons. But Carmen wasn't finished. She fixed her gaze on me. Isabel, you need to understand. Once we move, there's no going back. He will fight dirty. He will paint you as unstable. He might even go for custody. The thought made my chest tighten, but I forced my voice steady. Then we hit harder. He turned our daughter's graduation into a stage. He used her college fund to rent an apartment for his mistress. He made his move in public. Now we'll end him in public. Jack cracked a rare smile. That's the spirit. We began laying out the plan in detail. Step 1. Carmen would file motions to freeze accounts tied to suspicious transfers. Step 2. Jack would finalize the timeline of rental cars, hotel visits, and the downtown apartment. Step 3. Lena would prepare the first drop, a screenshot of a bank transfer and a corresponding property record, both impossible to dispute. Step 4. Danielle would secure sworn statements from every unpaid vendor. The timeline was tight. 2 weeks until the next school board gala where my husband was scheduled to speak as a pillar of the community. Carmen circled the date in red. That's our stage. He took one from you, Isabel. We take this one back. I felt the electricity in the room. The plan wasn't just paperwork anymore. It was action. It was momentum. But momentum attracts fire. That very night, as the team packed up, a knock rattled my door. A plain envelope slid beneath the frame. Inside, a single printed page. We know your team. We know your plan. Stop now. No signature. Just the echo of a threat. Danielle's hands trembled as she held it up. They're watching us inside your home. Jack scanned the envelope. Cheap printer paper. Mass-printed ink. It could have come from anywhere. But they know enough to rattle you. Carmen grabbed the note and slid it into a folder. Good. Every threat becomes evidence. They're building our case for us. I looked around the table, at the faces of people who had chosen to stand with me. Let them watch. Let them threaten. They don't realize every move only makes us stronger. Jack's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, his face tightening. It's him. He's live streaming right now, mocking you by name. And he's holding your binder. Jack's words dropped like a hammer. He's live streaming. Right now. And he's holding your binder. I froze. My binder had never left the dining table. My hand shook as I checked. It was still there, heavy with papers. Jack clarified. Not the real one. A copy. He's waving it around like a trophy. We crowded around Lena's laptop. The feed played on the screen. My husband sat in a sleek living room, the mistress beside him, all smiles. He held up a flimsy binder filled with papers and sneered. Look at this nonsense, he told his viewers. Isabel is fabricating lies. She spends her days making fake files, pretending she's the victim. This is what desperation looks like. He flipped pages, reading out loud mock evidence. Photoshopped emails. Bank statements with numbers that made no sense. He laughed like a showman. My stomach turned. He wasn't just denying, he was poisoning the well. If people saw him first, they might believe his lies before we had a chance to show the truth. Danielle slammed her hand on the table. He's trying to frame you as a liar before you can expose him. Carmen stayed calm, but her eyes burned. Then we stop waiting. We accelerate. Isabel, you need to decide. Do we drop the first piece tonight? I thought of my daughter asleep upstairs, of the threats, of the graduation humiliation. My husband wanted the stage? Fine. We'd give him a stage that would bury him. I nodded. We drop it. But we do it right. Lena's fingers flew across the keyboard. We release the apartment lease first. It's solid, undeniable, tied directly to the college fund. Proves theft and motive. No one can spin that. Jack added. Pair it with surveillance photos. Him entering the apartment. Her waiting inside. Time-stamped. That kills their denials. Carmen drafted a statement. Today, fabricated documents were displayed to mislead the public. Here are certified records, verified by independent sources, proving misuse of funds. Short, sharp, legally airtight. Danielle volunteered to call the vendors again, lining them up to speak on record. If they talk now, his lies fall faster. By midnight, the first salvo went live. Lena's strategy was precise. 3 documents, 1 affidavit, 1 photo. No commentary, no emotion, just facts. Within minutes, journalists picked it up. By dawn, the story shifted. Headlines. Executive accused of using daughter's college fund for mistress's apartment. I watched the view counts climb. Comments turned. His livestream clip was replayed alongside the lease and receipts. Viewers mocked him for waving fake binders while ignoring real documents. His arrogance had handed us momentum. But Carmen warned, this is only round one. He'll strike back harder. Be ready. She was right. By afternoon, his lawyer filed a countermotion. Claims of harassment, defamation, emotional distress. He demanded custody review, alleging I was mentally unstable. My chest tightened at the thought of losing my daughter. But Carmen was steady. He overplayed. These countermotions will crumble when we show the financial abuse. Judges despise men who raid education funds for mistresses. We're stronger than he is desperate. Still, the pivot meant one thing: we couldn't just drip feed anymore. We needed a coordinated counterplan. Jack drew it on the whiteboard. Legal strike. Freeze his remaining assets before he drains them. Public strike. Release vendor testimonies with signed affidavits. Surprise strike. Unveil proof of her aliases, showing she had been conning vendors long before she met him. Lena leaned over the board. When we expose her past, the story explodes. It stops being a cheating scandal and becomes a fraud case. Danielle crossed her arms. And he goes down with her. We agreed. The plan was no longer about survival, it was about crushing their credibility completely. At midnight, Jack returned with his latest find. A storage unit rented under one of her aliases. He dropped photos on the table. Inside the unit were unopened boxes of goods, designer handbags, electronics, furniture, all bought under false accounts. Each receipt tied back to my husband's card. Danielle whistled. She's not just a mistress. She's a thief running a side business on his dime. Carmen smiled for the first time that night. This is the nail in their coffin. As we locked the documents away, my phone buzzed with a new notification. A fresh livestream from him. His voice rang out. Tomorrow Isabel loses everything. Watch me prove she's the fraud. Morning came too early. I barely slept, waiting for whatever big reveal my husband had promised in his late-night stream. The world outside buzzed with anticipation. Social feeds swirled with hashtags, reporters camped on the street. He had turned my private life into a spectacle, and now the stage lights were blinding. By 9 a.m., his live broadcast began. Thousands tuned in. I sat at the table with Danielle, Carmen, Jack, and Lena, watching the feed play out on Lena's laptop. My husband stood in a rented studio, smug and rehearsed. Today, he declared, I expose Isabel for the liar she is. She claims I stole from my daughter's college fund, but the truth is she drained it herself. Look at these statements. He held up bank records. Danielle cursed. Those are your documents. But Carmen's eyes narrowed. Not quite. Look closer. Jack zoomed in on the screen. Numbers have been altered. Transfers reversed. My name appeared as the one authorizing the withdrawals. It was a forged version of the truth. He's doctored the files, Jack muttered. Sloppy edits, but to the untrained eye, convincing enough to sway people. The chat filled with comments. Isabel stole from her kid? Unbelievable. She's the fraud. Lena slammed her laptop shut. If this spreads unchecked, we lose control of the story. Carmen stayed calm but urgent. We pivot now. Isabel, are you ready to go public yourself? Not just through documents but in person? My stomach tightened. I had wanted the evidence to speak louder than my face. But maybe it was time. Before I could answer, Jack's phone buzzed. He stepped away, listened, then returned with his jaw tight. The mistress rented a press hall for noon. They're holding a joint press conference. Danielle groaned. They're doubling down. Public cameras, lies on repeat. Lena turned to me. If they paint you as the thief in front of live cameras, the smear will stick. We need to hit harder, faster. We reveal the storage unit, the fake aliases, the receipts. Carmen hesitated. If we go too early, we lose sequence. But if we don't, she wins the optics war. The room buzzed with tension. Every option carried risk. By 10 a.m., Photos surfaced online, her in front of the rented hall, smiling for cameras, holding hands with him. Headlines flashed. Executive and new partner address fraud allegations. Jack slammed his fist on the table. She's wearing jewelry from the storage unit. I photographed that necklace in the box last night. Proof. Clear, undeniable, timestamped. Carmen exhaled. Then that's our pivot. Isabel, we walk into this press hall and cut them down with evidence they're wearing on their bodies. My pulse pounded. Me in front of cameras facing them directly felt impossible, and yet it also felt inevitable. At 11 a.m., Lena pushed out a teaser. A single photo of the storage unit timestamped with the caption, "This necklace look familiar? Watch closely." Within minutes, the image went viral. Commenters compared the necklace in the storage photo to the one around the mistress's neck at the press hall. Screenshots flew across timelines. Doubt spread before they even took the podium. Still, by noon they walked on stage, smug, ready. She adjusted the necklace like a queen flaunting her crown. He leaned into the microphone. "We are victims of a smear campaign." I stood in the back of the hall, Carmen at my side, binder in hand. My heart pounded as I whispered to myself, he wanted a stage. Now he has one. And I'll take it from him. Carmen touched my shoulder, eyes locked on the cameras. "Isabel, it's time. Walk up there and end this." I stepped into the aisle before I could think. The press hall smelled like hot lights and new paint. Cameras formed a wall. Reporters held out microphones like blades. On stage, he gripped the lectern. She clutched his arm and lifted her chin, the necklace catching every flash. Carmen walked half a step behind me. Danielle and Jack waited by the side door. Lena stood near the media riser, phone ready to stream. I could feel the room turn toward me as I moved forward, the air tightening with curiosity. He saw me first. His smile sharpened. "Security," he said into a clipped mic. "Remove her. She is trespassing." I did not slow. I stopped at the foot of the stage, raised the binder, and spoke clearly. "You accused me of stealing from my daughter. You waved forged papers. Now answer one question." The room hushed. He tried to speak over me. "You do not belong here, Isabel." I pointed at the necklace. "Where did she get that?" Laughter flickered across a few faces. He rolled his eyes. "From a store. From my money. From anywhere that is not your imagination." I nodded to Jack. He lifted a tablet toward the projector feed. An image filled the screen behind them. A storage unit, row 3, shelf 2. Boxes labeled with a neat alias. In the center, a velvet tray with the same necklace, photographed last night, time-stamped, inventory sheet visible. A shiver moved through the room. Carmen spoke, measured and precise. The storage unit was rented under an alias used in multiple fraudulent contracts. Receipts show purchases billed to his corporate card, the same card that funded an apartment paid from a college account. Reporters searched. "Ma'am, is that your storage unit? Sir, did you approve these purchases? Why does the timestamp match last night while she wears the item today?" She reached for the necklace as if it had burned her. He stepped away from the lectern and planted himself between us. "This is harassment," he barked. "We will sue for defamation. We will." I cut him clean. "You forged my name on altered statements and called me a thief. You raided an education fund. You staged a lie for cameras. Today is your reckoning." He laughed, thin and rattled. "You think a photo proves anything?" Jack tapped again. The screen split. On the left, the storage photo. On the right, high-definition stills from this very hall taken seconds earlier. A software overlay marked identical flaws in 3 gems. A tiny chip on the clasp, a unique clasp angle. The match was irrefutable. Gasps rippled. A reporter near the front whispered, "That is the same piece." Carmen raised her voice one notch. "We have filed criminal referrals. We have vendor affidavits and bank records. We have chain of custody for every exhibit. You may address your answers to the district attorney." He tried to pivot. "This is a coordinated attack by a bitter ex-wife." I took the lectern beside him and placed a thin folder on it. "These are certified statements of transfer from the college account to a shell account, used to pay the lease. Each page is stamped. Each page is notarized. Your initials appear on every approval line." He lunged to grab the folder. Security hesitated, unsure who held authority. Carmen did not flinch. Touch her and we add assault. He froze. He knew that tone. A reporter lifted a hand. Sir, your company has confirmed your termination this morning. Do you wish to respond? The words hung like a bell. He blinked, lost the floor, and reached for a script that no longer fit. Then she broke. The mistress leaned into the microphone with a fragile smile that fractured at the edges. I did not know, she said. I thought the storage was legitimate. He told me. Her voice faltered under the weight of the room. I faced her, not cruel, just exact. You emailed vendors under false names. You signed as his assistant. You wore stolen goods to accuse me of theft. You knew enough. Carmen stepped forward and addressed the cameras. We will provide all documents to the press pool. We ask for accuracy and restraint. Allegations of forgery against my client are false and will be pursued. Questions flew. Lights burned hotter. He tried one last swing. Isabel doctored everything. She has money from somewhere. I spoke over him, steady. I have a job. I have counsel. I have evidence. And I have a daughter who heard you promise the world on her day and deliver humiliation. You used her milestone as a stage. Today the stage pushes you off. A voice from the back cut the air. Police. Two officers approached the side stairs, calm and professional. One addressed the stage. We have a request to recover property identified in an active complaint. Ma'am, please remove the necklace. Silence deepened. Cameras leaned forward as if breathing. She touched the clasp with shaking fingers. For a heartbeat she resisted. Then she unclipped it and set it on the lectern with a small metallic tap that sounded like a verdict. The officers slipped the necklace into an evidence bag. The bag sealed with a click that echoed. He stepped back, eyes wide, mouth opening and closing around words he could not shape into safety. Carmen turned to me. We are done here. I nodded, but my feet did not move. I looked into the cameras. To anyone watching who has been humiliated in public and told to accept it in private, collect your proof. Find your allies. Speak when it counts. I stepped down. The aisle opened again. Reporters called my name. I did not answer. Outside, the light hit cold on the concrete steps. Air rushed into my lungs like I had been underwater for months. My phone buzzed in my hand. A new message from an unknown number. For words clean as a blade. You forgot one vault. I stopped on the top step. Carmen read the screen over my shoulder. Jack's face changed from satisfaction to focus. Lena's stream kept rolling, comments spilling like a river. I turned the phone so they could see the sender's attachment icon blinking. Whoever sent it had a key to something we had missed. And if there was one vault left, then the explosion we thought we controlled was only the first hit. The crowd outside the press hall was still roaring when I read the message again. You forgot one vault. The attachment icon pulsed like a heartbeat. Carmen's hand closed gently over my wrist. Don't open it here. Not in front of cameras. We pushed through the crowd, flashes popping, reporters shouting my name. Danielle shielded me with her arm while Jack cleared a path to the car. Lena kept streaming but quietly, aiming the lens at the chaos rather than my face. Inside the vehicle, doors slammed. The noise dulled, replaced by the hum of the engine. My hand shook as I tapped the screen. The attachment opened. Rows of thumbnails appeared. Documents. Scans. Photos of safe deposit slips, wire transfers, even ledger sheets. Jack leaned closer. His jaw tightened. These aren't from our binder. Different accounts. Different signatures. Carmen's voice sharpened. Where did these come from? The sender remained a blocked number. No explanation. Just files. Danielle whispered. Another ally? Or a trap? Lena pulled the images onto her laptop. Look. These transfers are in her name. His mistress. But the origin account isn't theirs. It's his company's pension fund. Silence fell heavy. Pension fund. That meant hundreds of employees, people with families' savings. He hadn't just stolen from me, from our daughter. He had stolen from everyone who trusted him. Carmen exhaled slowly. This is the vault. The one that buries him beyond scandal. This is prison time. Jack frowned. But how did these documents surface? Who had access? Danielle offered the thought none of us wanted. Someone inside his circle. Maybe she's flipping on him already. The possibility lingered. Betrayal turning inward. We drove straight to Carmen's office. Doors locked, blinds drawn. Papers spread across the table under cold fluorescent light. Jack authenticated the metadata. The scans matched bank formats. Timestamps aligned with known transfers. This is real, he confirmed. If these numbers are accurate, he diverted millions over 3 years. Carmen pressed her palms flat on the table. Then we act now. Tonight we send this to the prosecutor. By morning, it must be in their hands with chain of custody secured. Danielle looked at me. Are you ready for this? Once it's filed, there's no pulling back. He won't just scream. He'll fight like a cornered animal. I thought of my daughter asleep at home, her world still fragile. I remembered the graduation stage, his smug smile, the necklace pulled from her throat. I nodded. Let him fight. We've already stripped his mask. Now we strip the ground beneath his feet. We drafted the referral that night. Carmen wrote with precision, citing statutes, attaching exhibits, marking every page. Jack signed affidavits verifying the digital trail. Lena prepared the media packet in case the documents leaked. Danielle brewed coffee, her eyes burning with fire. At midnight, the files left our hands and entered the prosecutor's inbox with a courier set to deliver physical copies by dawn. I leaned back in my chair exhausted. For the first time in months, I felt the edge of victory. But victory invites backlash. At 2 a.m. A noise split the silence. Tires screeched outside. A heavy thud against the building. Jack rushed to the window, pulled back the blinds. His voice was low but hard. They threw something. We ran to the window. On the pavement lay my car, windshield shattered, a brick resting inside. Taped to it, a note in thick black ink. Stop, or next time it isn't glass. Danielle grabbed my shoulders. They're escalating. Isabel, they're desperate. Carmen already had her phone in hand, calling the police. Good. Every threat adds to the record. The more they push, the deeper they sink. I stared at the brick, the broken glass glittering under the streetlight. My daughter's car seat sat untouched in the back. Empty but visible. The message wasn't subtle. I whispered into the tense room. If this is how far they're willing to go, then tomorrow we don't just defend, we finish them. Dawn broke with flashing red and blue outside my window. Police cruisers lined the curb, their lights bouncing off the shattered glass of my car. Officers moved with clipped efficiency, bagging the brick, photographing the windshield, asking me for every detail of the night. Carmen handled them with a lawyer's calm precision. We'll add this to the harassment file. Between the forged documents, the threats, and now property damage, the pattern is undeniable. I stood on the porch clutching my coffee, watching my daughter sleep peacefully through the window upstairs. The contrast cut me deep, her innocence, his rage. By 9 a.m., Carmen's courier confirmed delivery. The prosecutor now had everything. The pension fund diversions, the fraudulent contracts, the storage unit receipts, and sworn affidavits. The vault wasn't rumor anymore. It was case law waiting to ignite. The first headlines dropped by noon. Executive accused of draining pension funds, criminal probe opened. The words blazed across every feed. Reporters camped outside his office building, shouting questions he refused to answer. Stock prices for his company dipped. Employees flooded forums with fury, posting their fears that their savings had been stolen. Danielle scrolled through the comments on her phone, eyes wide. He's not just losing his reputation. He's losing the city. Lena added. And that means pressure. He won't retreat quietly. He'll try something reckless before the hammer falls. She was right. At 3 p.m., my phone buzzed with a notification. A live video. His face filled the screen, sweaty, red, desperate. She's destroying me, he shouted into the camera. My wife Isabel, she forged the vault records. She hacked accounts. She will pay for this. She will not take my daughter from me. Behind him, the mistress hovered, pale, silent. Carmen shook her head. He's unraveling on camera. Judges watch this. Prosecutors watch this. He's tightening his own noose. But the noose snapped toward me by evening. A sheriff's deputy arrived at my door with papers. Emergency custody motion. He was asking the court to strip me of guardianship, citing mental instability and fabricated evidence. The hearing was scheduled for the very next morning. My hands shook as I held the document. Danielle wrapped an arm around me. He's cornered Isabel. This is his last weapon. Carmen already had her pen in hand. We fight. We show the threats, the harassment, the forged binder, the brick, the pension theft. No judge will hand him your daughter. Jack leaned forward, eyes hard. But we need one more hit. Something undeniable in that courtroom. Something that forces silence. Lena tapped her laptop, pulling up the files again. There's one account we haven't released yet. Offshore. Cayman transfers. It's riskier, but if we show it tomorrow. Carmen cut her off. Careful. Judges dislike theatrics. But if he dares accuse Isabel in open court, we drop it as rebuttal. The room fell quiet. Tomorrow loomed like a storm. That night, I tucked my daughter into bed and kissed her forehead. She stirred, smiled faintly in her sleep, unaware her father was trying to steal her life with lies. I whispered a promise into the dark. He will never win you back. Not like this. At dawn, I dressed in plain black. Carmen handed me a folder so heavy it felt like steel. Danielle squeezed my shoulder. Jack checked his watch. Lena whispered, "We've got you." All the way. We walked into the courthouse through a swarm of reporters. Cameras clicked, voices shouted, questions cut the air. My husband was already inside, waiting with his lawyer and his mistress in the front row. He smirked at me as if this was still his show. The judge entered. The bailiff called the room to order. My husband's lawyer rose first, loud and confident. "Your Honor, Isabel has fabricated evidence, harassed my client, and endangered their daughter. We request immediate custody transfer." Carmen stood, calm as a blade. "Your Honor, we have proof not only of my client's stability, but of the petitioner's fraud, theft, and ongoing threats. We are prepared to submit criminal-level evidence, including pension fund diversions, to this court." Gasps rippled. The judge leaned forward. "Proceed." I glanced across the room. My husband's smirk faltered as Carmen opened the binder to the offshore transfer page, the one he never thought we'd find. The courtroom was silent except for the shuffle of papers. Carmen laid out the offshore transfers like blades on a table. Each page bore his initials, each wire traced to accounts in the Caymans. The judge's face hardened. My husband's lawyer tried to object, but the judge cut him off. "Sit down. The evidence is clear." Then the ruling came, sharp and final. The custody motion denied. Temporary custody secured with me. Protective orders extended. Financial disclosures ordered in full. And one last blow, referral to the district attorney for criminal prosecution. The gavel struck. My husband's smirk collapsed. His mistress covered her face with trembling hands. For the first time I saw him small, cornered, stripped of the control he worshipped. I left the courtroom not as his wife, not as his victim, but as a mother who had protected her child and as a woman who had reclaimed her voice. Danielle squeezed my hand. Jack exhaled in relief. Carmen allowed herself a rare smile. Lena whispered, "It's over. You won." But I knew it was more than a win. It was a message. He had chosen to humiliate me on my daughter's graduation day. He had turned love into theater, betrayal into spectacle. I had answered him with truth, precision, and unflinching resolve. The city would remember his downfall. My daughter would remember my strength. And I would never forget that silence, patience, and evidence cut deeper than rage. Revenge isn't about screaming louder than your betrayer. It's about letting the truth echo until it drowns them out. He thought he held the microphone forever. He never realized the power of a binder, a team, and a woman who refused to break. If this story gripped you, remember, betrayal doesn't define you, what you do next does. Collect your proof. Find your allies. When the moment comes, stand tall and speak. Subscribe for more stories of betrayal, justice, and revenge. And never forget, sometimes the cleanest victory is when the liar screams, and the world finally believes you.